Greetings, Vault citizens. Johnny5 Alive here, your Vault Overseer, and welcome back to another episode of Vault-Tec Settlements Let's Build. And in today's video, we're going to be building part 3 and our final part of the weapon shop for Project Sanctuary Reborn. So stay tuned and let's check it out. All right, everybody, our final installment of the weapon shop. After this, the weapon shop is done. I do have a final couple tweaks I need to do with the NPCs, markers, and that sort of thing. And then we can do the spotlight. So we will have a spotlight for this after, if you guys want to see it all real-time speed, like we've done with the other builds so far. So this episode is really all about the detailing, you guys, and it's quite nice seeing this all come together. And yeah, putting like the bars on the inside. This process is probably the tedious because it comes down to like interior designing, fiddling. As you saw there, I tried placing a sign down and then I couldn't move it and I had to reload my game, and I ended up putting it down on that shelf there, and that actually locks it to the object. So I end up deleting that shelf later on, and that deletes the posters as well. A little bit of a foresight, but we end up deleting those posters as well. I thought it would be cool to have those posters behind the shop, kind of like showing you, I don't know, it kind of also looks like price tags or something, like I bought the Smith & Wesson rifle or whatever, and there's a picture of it there on the board, and you know, just it's kind of like a menu. So I thought it'd be kind of cool to visualize that and have it in there, but we end up finding something better, and there are some mistakes that are made in this video. I kind of wish I edited them out or threw out the recordings, but I think that's an important part of the process and something to talk about. Maybe in the future, if I make any big sweeping changes or revisions or something, I'll just delete the recording. But the things that I end up changing are a part of a recording of important stuff. So I would have to really sift through, you know, all 6 or 7 hours of the footage or whatever, and figure out what it was. So those you saw there for a second, I was doing something with those shopping carts and boxes. By default, those objects didn't have physics on, so the boxes got all like pushed around and knocked over. So I went in and I was pushing insert on all of them to make sure their physics were locked. The fact that I knocked them over a little bit actually added to the imperfectionism of it. Looks like just someone did a really bad job of stacking those boxes, or people, you know, were being messy. I kind of liked it, so I left it the way it was, and it added a little bit of character to it. So that is also something to keep in mind. Some of these objects having physics, maybe bang some things around and make a pile of junk, knock it around, and then lock it all in place. You can come up with some interesting designs based off of that. So here for the interior, I'm trying to build. I don't know. I think the doors would have locked to the house, but I wanted to add like a little bit of rusticness to that. So we're putting our own wooden door frame in, wooden panels on the wall. We don't want it to be a perfectly clean house. So I'm trying to find doors that work, door frames that work. There's a little bit of a clipping issue where they clip through the top, but I do slide it down, nudge it, and fix it a little bit. Not too big of a deal. Just trying to find suitable doors, but I like the paneling on the inside because it just adds that kind of like rebuilt or refurbished look and feel that we're going for with this project. More so on these builds, like the Inn and the Minutemen, we wanted to be a little bit clean. Yeah, we just, for the reasons that it's supposed to be a little bit more upscale and friendly and inviting, whereas this, it's almost like two different people built this. And that would be the case. Like, you got the people who are into weapons and armor. They're the ones in charge of building their weapon and armor shops. So naturally, they're going to be using different pieces than someone that's working on the inn. And yeah, I wanted the idea that it was like two different people have built these things. So, you know, we see things like that big sign. You'll probably see it in the spotlight, but there's that big giant yellow gate that goes to the vault in the back. It's just to the left of our building. The sign on the backside when you're coming from the vault, it says F off. It's actually spelled out though, and you know, it's almost like a raider piece. So the weaponsmith, the armorsmith, the people running this side of town, they got an attitude, and they need an attitude because they're dealing with crappy people buying weapons. We don't want pushovers. So you know, they have a different persona, and even though our Minutemen aren't pushovers, they do symbolize like justice and retribution, and they are good-hearted people. They're not going to be using barbed wire and stuff at their base. They're not as gritty and worn out of wastelanders as our armorsmith owner. So here I end up moving. I like the red counter that I originally had, but the thing is I ran into an issue or a plausible outcome where I'm going to have a shopkeeper at that countertop. So there is a mod that gives me mats, and I can get a tier 3 shop in there as a mat. But a mat is kind of boring. And the one thing that's nice, this is a bug I was talking about, I think it was in the last episode, but the roundabout letters are up in the sky for some reason. It's because I copied the coordinates and moved it with the coordinates. Not a good idea. You have to manually place that thing. You cannot use coordinates to move it. So just a quick adjustment and quick fix. Anyways, what was I saying? Yeah, the countertop in the shop needs to be run by somebody. So there is a mod that I got that's like improved shops or something like that, better vendor stalls, I think. And what's really cool about it is by default, there's those vendor shops that you get with the vanilla game, and they're like boxes, they're like cupboards that have been opened up, and they're pretty boring. And better vendor stalls gives you those same wooden cupboard shops, but they get filled with clutter when someone's working the counter. But there's also some bonus ones, like the one you're seeing here, that shelf in the background, the guns, the countertop in front with the cage on front, the cash register. All of that is one asset. It's a part of this vendor stall. So they have some pretty amped up cool ones. But what's really nice about this one is all the inventory there, it disappears when they're not at the counter working it. So it gives like a little bit of added, like they closed down shop for the night, they took the inventory down and they moved it into the warehouse, or they've moved it into the shop itself, just in case, you know, someone breaks through the chain link fence, which did come into the storytelling and the immersion. So you see me putting down these shelves, and I don't know what I was thinking, because when I first started building this shop, I knew I was going to be able to fill the shop up because I have this mod called Weapon Racks and Armor Racks Extended, and they give you some really cool displays for weapons and stuff. So I was like, oh, because of all this stuff and do-it-yourself clutter, I have so much things that I can decorate with. And for some reason, I didn't have that in mind, or I completely forgot about it. I got sidelined. I don't know what was going on with me. But I completely forgot about the racks, the weapon racks. And that's what I was saying, like, I did make a mistake here, and I kind of wish I edited it out, because everything you're seeing here kind of gets deleted. But I think it's good to talk about it in terms of the learning process, because, you know, even me, I have an idea of what the pieces are, and I've memorized things, and you know, sometimes your memory gets the best of you, and you forget about things, and sometimes there's an oversight, or maybe you get tunnel vision. You're just into what you're doing, and maybe that's what was happening with me. I was on autopilot, like, I need shelves because this room's going to be full of stuff, and I'm just trying to get that composition or that layout of the interior done. And I'm thinking about, like, how can I use these posters on the walls, and maybe you could see the posters through the shelf. That might be kind of cool. And all these things, you know, on my mind made me completely overshadow the fact that there's these weapon racks in the game that I didn't even place down or consider or think about. And that's part of the important process of, see how I keep running out to grab things on the street. When you're setting up to build a build, you want to put down all your key hero pieces, things that are going to inspire you, things that are going to remind you of something that you have to build. So I did basically the signs and different things like that, But I forgot to do the weapon racks because I was like, oh, well, that's easy. I don't need to put the weapon racks down. They're easy to access, and when I get there, I'll get there and I'll just go to that menu. But because I didn't put it down, I didn't have anything to remind me. And therefore, I forgot about it. But luckily, I remembered. And what I end up remembering is, right now you see me using Do It Yourself. And this is a really handy tool to create clutter. And I'm trying to like create some randomization, trying to reduce the repetitive nature. I don't want two areas to look the same, but because there's not enough variety in this pack, I am also limited to, I have to do some reusing of the pieces. So I'm just trying to space them out and make them look a little bit random. And then I carry that thought process forward into the shop without thinking about my weapon racks. The problem that I really didn't like here, and I do realize this later on, is that something just doesn't feel right about my weapon shop. There's all the junk out front, but it's kind of like mishandled. It's not neatly placed. It's just kind of piled on shelves. And because it's like a bag and it's like a barrel with a thing and, a duffel bag with a gun and a hat, it just feels like miscellaneous goods. Something that you would see in like a, what do I want to say? Auction. Like an auction. Think about like a NCIX auction, selling off all their stuff. There's just bins of crap that you can sell. That's what this stuff looks like. It looks like clutter. It looks like bins of stuff. Well, this does work for like a general merchant shop or whatever. This stuff really works it works well out front. What you guys saw me do out front on those shelves where the merchant is, it makes sense there because it's knickknacks, it's clutter, it's junk, and, it's less important. So it being near the front door like that, like if someone were to break into this shop, hypothetically speaking, they would do it through that chain link fence out front. They would cut holes in it, get in, and they would steal. But the stuff that's out here where the merchant is, it's not really that valuable. It's just a bunch of knickknacks and weapon crap. So if they break in and they steal this stuff, no big deal. The important and invaluable stuff, and you see me moving the shelf, I was having problems with her working her shift, and I'm still going to have to sort that out when I go do my markers. She can't navigate in and out of that desk properly. I may have to move things around, going between this episode and the spotlight. Something's wrong with her navigation. But even if there's something wrong with the character's navigation, it doesn't matter too much, because if you wait an hour, they will, or even if you just sit there for a second, I think they'll eventually just boop, disappear and port to where they were trying to go. The AI will struggle for a bit, and eventually the system will give up on itself and teleport the AI. It does break the immersion a little bit. It's a bit of a bug. If you hit the fast travel or wait key and come back, they will be where they should be. However, it still bugs me. I want it to be fluent. If there comes a time where they're just traveling from their break to their vendor stand, I want them to transition in there smoothly. So I might have to make some adjustments to that counter, and that might mean I have to make some adjustments to the entire interior based off of where my shelves are and how the navigation works. And if it's too much of a bothersome, I'll just leave it the way it is and let it bug itself back into place. Because it does work. At the end of the day, it does work. It's just not as nice looking in terms of animation transitions and AI navigation. So ideally, I want it as good as possible. So I'll have to go play around with it. If I can get it to work with very little changes to the interior, that's what I'll do. And if I have to make some drastic changes, I might just revert and leave it the way it is with the bugged out AI. But it doesn't prevent the AI from working, so it's not game breaking at the end of the day. So I'm just trying to light the warehouse up with some crappy looking lights, and it's a big space, so we got to use a lot of them. But we're trying to decorate this warehouse a little bit, light it up. But what was I saying? I want to go back to the interior talk. Where was I? I was talking about the interior and the shelf clutter. Yeah, someone robbing the store They should be able to rob everything that's right there by the vendor, but that stuff's less important. When you go in the inside of the shop that's actually inside the house, that's where you want your arms. Like, there is no exit. We barred those windows at the beginning of the episode. They are barred. They have glass on them, and then we put wooden panels over top. There is no getting in that house. Even if you want to go through the residential window, we barred that up as well. So there's nobody's getting in that place, and the front door is a security door. So even if you were to get into the garage portion of the shop where all the junk is, what are you going to steal? You can't get into the goods. And that's where I was sitting there thinking, like, there's something wrong with my shop. It doesn't feel that awesome. Even with all that stuff, like, I'll go in there and, I left it for now, and I knew something was bugging me about it. But I was like, let's not fiddle with it for too long. And that's something I recommend is, if you're struggling with something or something doesn't feel right, don't play with it for 2 hours, because then you just don't ever get anywhere. Continue doing your bulk, because we have so much bulk to cover that we do have an interior shop. It is something. And, it does feel like a weapon shop. And some would say, like, what I have is good enough. It's pretty good. It's a good weapon shop. So, having said that, we could potentially leave it the way it is. We don't have to be perfectionists with everything we do. Having said that, I knew something was bugging me, but maybe if I have time after, I'll fix it. So what you see me doing here is just duplicating tanks and stuff. I'm trying to decorate the warehouse. This is part of our bulk. We want to get through our bulk. The warehouse needed to be decorated. I had a lot of ideas for this. Like, maybe I would do upper platforms, because some warehouses have like that balcony that can walk around the entire warehouse. But we don't really have a lot of room in here. It'll feel really crampy. I want it to feel like a forklift can drive in through these big doors. There's a shipping container here that got craned in or something. Whatever. We moved it into place, and we have just wares. I don't need everything to be perfect. Like, what's inside these boxes, we don't know it. It's most likely ammunition and weapons and stuff. Everything that we've unpacked from those boxes, we've put inside here. So, the warehouse is looking pretty good. It's not the best. It's not a perfect warehouse, but we have stacks of boxes. We have our bulk down, and in the end, I was looking at it, and I'm pretty happy with it. I'm satisfied. It feels like weapons wares inside of crates, and somebody. I had some of the boxes open, and it looks like someone was working to unpack everything. But because of our weapon shop is being full, our inventory stocked. There's no need to do anything else with our warehouse. They will unpack what they need once they run low on inventory. That's the story. We're always trying to tell a story with our builds. So here I'm thinking, like, okay, I got to change the layout because I got to make room for the weapon racks. Like, I want to use the weapon racks. I like the fact that we had the posters, and I like the shelves. There were things that I liked about the current build the way it is. So I was trying to salvage that. And that's something to learn, guys, is sometimes you have an idea, sometimes you have a vision, and you want that vision to work. So my vision was to have shelves inside and have these clutters, but also weapon racks. And I didn't know how many weapon racks I had available to me. So here I'm just kind of placing them down, and then I'm needing materials. I needed some steel or something. Go in and get what I need from the dispenser mod that I have, some screws, getting what I need to place these things down. Generally, this isn't my final. I'm just plopping them down to go, okay, how do they snap to the wall? How do they snap to each other? And how many of them do I have? Those are all the questions in my mind, and we're experimenting to find the answers to those questions. So, like, I want some shelves. I want, like, shopping aisles. That was the vision. And, I like being able to see through the shelves, so you can see when you're in between aisles, you can see what's on the other side. That really adds to the kind of immersion of, like, I'm in a shopping mart or whatever. So I was trying to salvage that and move those things around the shelves because I wanted to keep them as much as possible, if at all possible. And then, you know, as I'm placing these weapon racks down, I'm like, God, there's a lot of these. And they look really, really freaking good. Way better than our junk clutter. And so as I'm doing this, I'm like, well, you know what? There's a lot of these, and they look way better than our piles of junk. And this being the interior, the fortified area, this is going to work for our storytelling. I can't quite fit these shelves in, but we're going to try and keep the center aisles. That was my thoughts. And we end up having to get rid of those too. But the vision is to have some sort of aisles, or have some... I didn't like the openness. Like, you come in and it's just open. Everything's along the walls. There should be some sort of aisles to make use of that space. So we do find something in the end, but we get rid of these ones. So that stuff's all gone. I tried desperately to keep it. I like the pistol racks the way they were, so we keep that. That was definitely my favorite one. And they are display cases. They look really good. And I'm a big fan of pistols in this game, and in all games. Pistols are my favorite gun type. I think they're small. They require skill. Something about them I just love. I love the way they fire. I mean, I haven't really used guns in real life. I live in Canada, guys. We don't have weapons in Canada. Not really, but not. Anyways. So yeah, I'm making use of these weapon racks, and I want some kind of organization to this madness. So I'm looking at them all, and the camera's flying around, guys. I'm sorry. It is what it is at 6 times speed, and we already talked about that. It is what it is. But I'm trying to like fly around and look at what the weapon types are, and I want to add some sort of organization. So the rows and rows of rifles and pistols, the type, the manufacturing type, they should all kind of go together. Shotguns, rifles, pipe rifles, like all of our different kinds of rifles and pistols, I want to have them in rows. And these are our shelved bulk items. So shelved bulk items, up against the back, when you come in, you can see, oh my god, look at all this inventory here. This is mad. You can go up to the shelf, pull one down, and there you go. You got your rifle. There's a lot to pick from. And then we have certain things like the Fat Man launchers, the grenade launchers, the Gatling guns, flamethrowers, Tesla cannons, junk launchers. All that stuff should be up against a back wall that's kind of like on display, like our showcase pieces. So I'm trying to keep that stuff in mind to go again with our storytelling. And so the clustered aisles, just packed full of rifles, rows and rows of rifles. You're going through an aisle, there should be rows of inventory. And I'm also trying to play around with the height. Some of the rifles are too tall, so the tall ones should be on top, the short ones should be on the bottom. There are things to consider when you're using these weapon racks and how they should play. I thought the melee weapons right by the pistol display rack on your way out, it's like, grab a melee weapon, grab a pistol. Something that doesn't need to be in the aisles, that's a very unique one-off, should stand out and be on its own. We have some mines and explosives on that back wall there in the corner. And yeah, so anything that's kind of like displayed, there's ones that are racked and rowed, then there's ones that are turned sideways on display. So that's our big open room, our display area, the unique weapons. They should all be pinned up on the wall in their own fashion. And now there was one that I couldn't get, the display rack for the harpoon weapons from Far Harbor. I had to sneak them in that corner. It is what it is. I didn't have any extra slots or wall space for that, and it's an odd number. So, for the most part, I got this thing organized into a smart, a smart, good-looking fashion. It all makes sense. It tells a story. Whoever organized this room, the shopkeep, really put a lot of thought into the store. Now we have the aisles, and we brought back the aisles with those wooden planks, the dividers, filled the weapon racks, and now it doesn't feel like a big open store. We have our ammo room back there. Originally I think I talked about this in the first episode, I had the idea that the vendor was going to be in here, and behind the vendor was that ammo room. and I was going to put all sorts of goodies in there. But I changed my mind on that because I feel like the vendor should be out front, because if we have stuff in the garage that we're selling, we don't want someone stealing it, and we should have the person at the counter right at the exit, at the very, very exit. And so you go in there, you're not leaving without getting checked. So it doesn't matter even if you walked inside the house and stole something or filled your pockets, because you got to go through security before you leave. You have to buy the vendors on the way out. And we will have guards and security both on top of the building and somewhere inside of the building. So you will have that, sell that idea that they're going to check your pockets before and after when you enter this place. It's high security. So having said that, we wanted all the stuff just on the inside, like have at her. Once you're in that shop, you cannot get out unless you go through that main door. So there's no need for a vendor on the inside. And I really liked the vendor in the garage, kind of by all the junk and stuff. And it worked out really good. And we also wanted cots and living quarters. So that's what I'm doing here. We have more rooms to this house, and we're not going to fill the entire house up as a shopping facility. And we want to sell the Fallout immersion that somebody lives here. So our vendor lives in this room here, the main master bedroom with one bed. And then we have a room that has two cots. And that's going to be our guards that take turns on night shift and day shift. I probably will have one guard that doesn't have a bed, but we're going to put that one with the one mod I talked about where I can force them to a 24-hour schedule, and they'll just always be guarding the shop. And that's just to keep people out, and while it might be immersion breaking, it'd be good to always see somebody guarding. And, you won't really notice when you're playing the game. You'll see the other guards taking turns and taking shifts, but for the most part, you'll just... somebody's there guarding at nighttime, they're there at daytime. The fact that they don't have a schedule is not too immersion breaking. I did the same thing with my innkeeper. It's just something where it would be more immersion breaking to me if I saw this awesome armor shop and the gate was open for whatever reason, like maybe an NPC actually waltzed on in there, and there's absolutely zero security. If that guard happened to be taking a break, there's nobody watching all this loot. So we're going to have some on a 24-hour cycle, I believe. And then the guys that guard on top with the posts that we made, those ones will take shifts and stuff, because it doesn't really matter what they wander off and do. As long as there's one guy at the post, that's cool. If he takes a break, we still have our other guy. So at the end of the day, I might have 3, maybe even 4 guards throughout this place. Definitely one downstairs, definitely 2 upstairs, but on rotating shifts. So when you come here, you should at least, at the minimum, see 1 or 2 guards standing about. And I want to enforce that security. There's a lot of stuff to steal here. So this would be a bandit's paradise, and that's why we fortified it. We barred up the windows, and we want the extra security. There's a ton of cash inside the house. The only thing that I have here is that I'm thinking about is, like, what's stopping someone from, they go into the weapon shop, they could just access this house back here. We're going to pretend that you need a key to get in that door. And while it's not a security door, I wanted it to be like a vibrant orange door to go with our color scheme that we've been going with so far. You can pretend it's house locked. If someone were to axe down that door because they don't have the key, there's security like right there. Like they can see and hear through the main door. They'll notice it for sure. So I think in terms of my security theories and thought process gone into this place, it's pretty a bulletproof system. No pun intended. It's definitely bulletproof. No one's robbing this place or the residents inside. So here I'm just trying to finalize some lighting. I like those big, what do you call them, fluorescent beam lights underneath the Fallon sign. We had that gap under the Fallon sign, which I really, really liked. So it'll make it pop at nighttime. You can read Fallon's. and it wanted more graffiti. Now, you guys probably will, I don't know if anyone's talked about this yet, but it's definitely bugged me that my graffiti isn't rotated. It's always perfectly horizontal, left to right. It does bug me. Right now, at the time of this recording, I'm having an issue with my rotation features with Place Everywhere. It rotates it on really funky axes, which means I can't do a perfect X rotation to turn it sideways, to skew it. I have to it does it on like an XZ, and then like a YX, and then like a ZY. It's really weird. So when we're dealing with posters and stuff, the moment I start rotating it on weird axes, it's gonna never be able. I'm never gonna get it straight again. So it would take a lot of fiddling, and I mean a lot of fiddling, to rotate a sign. I guess once I have one rotated, I can copy the coordinates. So it's not impossible, but it's super annoying. And I thought, you know what, graffiti straight looks good. It's fine. The idea is we want graffiti there, and that's what we accomplished. It could be a little bit more random. I want to get as much randomness as possible, but it's not worth the effort. The amount of fiddling with the rotation, especially on something paper thin, trying to line it to a wall. Super pain in the neck. We'll talk about that when I go into my hotkeys video, and my tips and tricks is the rotation of it. Normally I've seen other people's tutorials on Place Everywhere and the hotkeys. They don't seem to be having issues. I'm having issues. When we get into that, I want to know if you guys are having issues, or if you did have the issue and if you fixed it. This is going to I would like to be able to rotate things much easier, but I'm not getting like a proper object rotation. It seems to be like a world access rotation, and nothing's to the grid. Everything's dynamic, so it does cause me some serious headaches coming to rotate things. But I get through it. If I need something rotated, I'm not going to just not do it. I'll fiddle with it and get it into a place. But if something's paper thin and up against a wall, that's when it becomes super annoying. So because it has to be perfect. So I don't mind it if it's a couple degrees off on an object that's just supposed to be tilted, and it's tilted slightly YX or ZY. You won't notice a 2-degree offset. It's not a big deal. So here I'm just trying to put some turrets in, some spotlights in the back. I mean, bandits can technically attack from all angles, I believe. Generally they come from the front and I think one part of the back, but we still want to sell that immersion. We want to make it so if there was a stealth attack from behind, we have walls, we have turrets, we have spotlights everywhere. While the Minutemen are protecting the front, this weapon shop has a lot of valuables. A lot. Most likely the most in the entire park settlement. So yeah, we definitely want this thing to be heavily armed, not with just guards. We want fortress walls, we want turrets. So now I'm looking through what kind of walls I have available to me, and I found some really cool ones under Homemaker. These big, tall junk fences. I really like the tall ones because they start off tall. My ground is kind of on a hill, so we won't need to build tall all the way around Sanctuary, but we do have this big, tall warehouse there. So having that matched height is really cool. There's little bits of barbed wire. There's randomness to it. It's a really nice constructed wall. So I ran that across, not all the way across, but about to where our armory is. For our armory, we might come up with different walls. But like I said, we want each building to feel like someone else made them. So there's little bits of concrete and wood throughout this build. With our armory, we definitely going to go more towards steel. And stainless steel, painted green steel, ballistics, all sorts of different things like that. So we might build our defense walls slightly different for that area. So I'm only building out to where I need to. Alright, looks like we're at the cinematic footage here. This is a look at everything, guys. I think it all looks done other than our AI navigation. Tons of clutter out front. Composition's looking great with the big scaled up laser turret above the Fallon sign. I like that. The rocket, the crane, the big generator. Even the backside looks good with the graffiti, the big F off sign, and the crane holding up the car. The big junk fences. Again, advertising graffiti, big AC unit to keep it's a warehouse AC unit. Interior's looking pretty good. I might have to tweak this based off of the navigation points. Hopefully it doesn't change too much. Love the graffiti there on the enter sign on duty. It's so vibrant and nice looking. The shelves are all done up. Much better than how we started. I love the way it's stocked up now. Interiors are looking pretty good. Warehouse, not the best. It's a warehouse, though. It looks and feels like a warehouse. I mean, I'm still bothered by the plainness of the concrete walls, but that's what a warehouse is. It's just a concrete block. So I'm fine with it. Upstairs, we have a little bit of decorations. I might touch this up a bit, put a few chairs up there, a table, and some cigars. I might do a couple final touches I think that's the only area that's not really polished. There's an overall look at it. I think we really nailed the composition, and we upscaled this thing, and it's looking much better than I had visioned in my mind. It's super upscaled than the original goal. It's huge. There's lots of big elements there. Tons of details on the inside. It's what I wanted from the weapon shop and more. But what's really difficult here, guys, it was supposed to be kind of the smaller shop of the two. The armory was supposed to be big and represent armor. Power armor racks everywhere. Fortified, huge. What I did here was what I expected the armory to look like, not this. But this has a certain unique feel to it. It does have this kind of trader outpost feel, something you would see on like Tatooine from Star Wars or something, if that makes sense, or Junkertown, or from Overwatch, or any of those Borderlands. It does have like a trade merchant feel, and the grittiness of like a weapons arms dealer. Whereas our armory, we have to come up with a new theme. Metal plates and just heavy Brotherhood of Steel maybe kind of feel, if that makes sense. Something from there. We want some big plates and different things. But how am I going to do it? How am I going to get the big scale? We added like the water tower in there and different things that were made out of wood to give us that rustic, scrappy feel. With armor, we need everything to feel solid, secure, and reinforced. No wood at all. By not using wood, we don't get the scrappiness. So what does that look like? How does that come together? And I'm really worried about the armory, because I'm like, is it going to be clunky? How am I going to pull this off? How am I going to one-up what we've done here and come up with something unique? So I'm really curious to know what I end up doing. I'm actually nervous about the challenge as well, but we'll hopefully come up with something cool. If it's not the better of the two, I mean, we're going to try and make it the better of the two, but I really like the way this weapon shop turned out. So much so that I have a hard time believing that the armory is going to be cooler than this weapon shop. By luck, by just pure following the guides and the things that I talked about earlier, the weapon shop turned out to be something exceptional and much better than I anticipated it to be. So now it sets the bar super, 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 super high, because we wanted them to be on par, and in order to be on par, I have a lot of work cut out for me for this armory. But boom, there you go, guys. That's our weapon shop. Stay tuned for the spotlight that'll come up. I have to definitely do some navigation stuff on there yet. Yeah, check out that in the spotlight, and next we'll probably be doing the armory for our next Let's Build. So if you guys enjoy, please be sure to smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe for more daily videos, and if you would like to support the show, please do consider becoming a patron. Check out my Patreon page. Links are down in the description below. Your support is very needed, and very grateful for it, as it does let me do these smaller videos that don't really generate any revenue. So if you do like these series, guys, consider becoming a patron, and I will definitely continue doing this for a very long time. All right, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye now.